Pakistan has been exposed once again. A UN report has come out flagging a link between Pakistan's very own Jaish-e-Mohammed and the Delhi blast from last year, which claimed 15 lives. This is not an allegation, not a rumor dressed up as outrage. This is a formal submission under Resolution 2734 to the 1267 Sanctions Committee. But Pakistan is not learning. Just a few days ago, a Lashkar commander was caught on camera publicly making threats.
कि हम इस अखंड भारत को खंड खंड कर देंगे, हम आगरा को आग लगाएंगे, हम दक्कन को दहकाएंगे, हम दिल्ली को दहलाएंगे और इंशाअल्लाह हम अपने उन बुजुर्गों की वसीयतों पे आज भी कायम हैं.
So how many times does the script have to rerun before the world drops the shocked act routine? How many dossiers, how many explosions, how many bodies before denial stops being policy and accountability stops being optional? At India Today Global, we argue, has Pakistan finally run out of chances? Will the world finally act against what has become to be known as Pak terror? Hello and welcome. You're watching Statecraft with me, Geeta Mohan. The 37th report of the UN Analytical Support and Sanctions Monitoring Team states clearly that one member state informed the panel that Jaish-e-Mohammed claimed responsibility for multiple attacks, including the November 10th strike near Delhi's Red Fort. 15 killed, over 20 injured, a crowded evening, a car bomb. At the same time, another member state calls the group defunct. Two narratives, one organization, one massacre. Pakistan has long maintained that banned outfits like Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Taiba no longer function after domestic prescription. Yet the UN flags claims of responsibility and new organizational expansion. So which version does the world accept? The blast itself was not crude chaos. It was structured, timed, assembled with precision. At 6:52 p.m. near Red Fort Metro Station, Gate Number 1, a white Hyundai i20 halted at a traffic signal and detonated. Forensic analysis confirmed over 2 kilograms of ammonium nitrate mixed with high-grade military explosives, including potassium chlorate, sulfur, and petroleum-based detonators. Prepared quickly, executed deliberately, 15 dead, civilians, a bus conductor, shop workers, an e-rickshaw driver. DNA confirmed the driver as Umar Muhammad, also known as Umar un-Nabi, a Jammu and Kashmir native linked to a radical network tied to JEM handlers. This was not random rage. This was organized terror. Investigators recovered a 1-minute and 20-second video clip from Umar's phone. In it, he spoke about carrying out a suicide attack. Not a lone wolf drifting into extremism, a man embedded in a network. Jammu and Kashmir police described it as a white-collar terror module linked to Jaish-e-Mohammed and Ansar Ghazwat-ul-Hind. The National Investigation Agency, that's NIA, took over within hours. 9 arrests followed by December 2025. Among them, 3 doctors, professionals, educated, coordinating logistics, funding and technical expertise. Terror did not wear a mask of ignorance. It wore a white coat. The UN report does not stop at the blast. It flags an internal development within Jaish-e-Mohammed. On 8 October 2025, Masood Azhar, its leader and a UN-designated terrorist, announced the formation of a women-only wing, Jamaat-ul-Muminat. The UN lists the development as evidence of organizational vitality. A group described as dismantled launches a new wing. A women-only structure intended to support terrorist activities. Recruitment through Markaz Usman O Ali in Bahawalpur. District-level branches. A leader, Sadia Azhar. Courses like Tufat-ul-Muminat priced at 500 Pakistani rupees. Radicalization packaged and distributed. The timeline matters. 8th of October, the Women's Wing announcement. Late October, raids in Faridabad and Dhauj uncover nearly 2,500 kilograms of ammonium nitrate and chemicals nearing bomb readiness. 10th November, the Red Fort blast. The overlap is not abstract, it is operational. The module in Delhi included Dr. Shaheen Saeed, identified as financier and logistician. She handled 25 lakh rupees via hawala. She made multiple trips to Jammu and Kashmir. Investigators tied her role to the wing's model of hybrid male-female terror operations. The UN report notes the women's wing as proof that JEM remains active. Pakistan calls the group dismantled. The UN calls it expanding. JEM propaganda outlets credited the attack as revenge. The UN report records that claim. Pakistan insists proscribed groups are inactive under domestic anti-terror laws. Yet the same report captures contrasting assessments from member states. One cites continued operational role and claims of responsibility. Another labels the group defunct. This contradiction defines the problem. Terror infrastructure morphs. Narratives shift. Official denials remain constant.
Pakistan has always acted with responsibility and restraint, an exercise of its right to self-defense through an effective and measured response, as was the case most recently in May 2025. India's absurd claims on Pahalgam incident are both false and predictable. Pakistan as a responsible state joined other members of the Security Council in condemning the Pahalgam incident. Pakistan offered an independent, credible investigation, which India rejected. This conduct of the Indian state reflects the mindset of a rogue actor assuming the roles of judge, jury, and executioner in blatant disregard of international law and norms. There was no self-defense of India. It was a naked aggression against a sovereign state. India's violation of Pakistan's sovereignty was responded befittingly by inflicting losses on Indian military and aviation assets, including by downing multiple Indian aircrafts that participated in that aggression.
India has raised this issue repeatedly at international forums, briefings at the UN, advocacy at FATF discussions, intelligence shared, dossiers submitted. For years, warnings about cross-border terror networks linked to Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Taiba, often met with procedural language, often diluted into diplomatic equivalents. Now the UN sanctions monitoring mechanism itself records the linkage between JEM and the Red Fort blast. Not an Indian press release, a UN document. The Red Fort attack did not occur in isolation. The report references the April 2025 Pahalgam attack carried out by the Resistance Front, a proxy of Lashkar-e-Taiba, leaving 26 civilians dead. It notes that only on 28th of July 2025, 3 individuals allegedly involved in that attack were killed. It records that India launched Operation Sindoor in May, targeting terrorist infrastructure in Pakistan, triggering a brief 4-day military escalation. The region already stood on edge. The Red Fort blast reinforced a pattern. Operation Sindoor targeted 9 sites linked to JEM, Lashkar-e-Taiba and Hizbul Mujahideen: Bahawalpur, Muridke, Kotli, Muzaffarabad. Infrastructure described as training camps, recruitment centers, launch pads, headquarters. India described the strikes as focused and non-escalatory. Pakistan denied the existence of camps. Yet months later, the UN monitoring team records JEM's claimed responsibility for a mass casualty attack in Delhi and highlights the formation of a new women's wing. If the infrastructure stood dismantled, where did the operational capability originate? The white-collar dimension complicates the narrative. Doctors coordinated via telegram, encrypted apps, foreign handlers identified as Dr. Hashim, also known as Arif Nisar, linked to JEM in Pakistan, and another contact labeled Dr. Okasa. Funding trails traced through hawala, explosives stockpiled, drone and rocket modifications discussed for a planned Republic Day strike labeled D6. Arrests disrupted part of the plan. Omar detonated prematurely after panic set in. 15 lives ended because the larger design partially collapsed. Pakistan exited the FATF grey list in October 2022 after completing 34 action items. It moved to compliant or largely compliant on 38 out of 40 recommendations under Asia-Pacific Group oversight. Yet, FATF leadership warned that delisting does not grant immunity. The Red Fort investigation exposed hawala funding, online radicalization courses priced at 500 Pakistani rupees, women's wing expansion. If compliance exists on paper but operational networks persist in practice, what does compliance mean? Pakistan portrays itself as a victim of terrorism, citing thousands of domestic casualties. At the same time, it maintains that JEM and Lashkar-e-Taiba are no longer functional. The UN report challenges that claim by documenting a member state's intelligence that JEM claimed responsibility for the Delhi attack and by highlighting Masood Azhar's announcement of Jamaat-ul-Muminat. Two realities collide: victimhood narrative, proxy infrastructure allegation. The Osama bin Laden episode remains a historical scar. From 2005 until May 2, 2011, he resided in Abbottabad, 1.5 kilometers from the Pakistan Military Academy, a custom-built compound with 18-foot walls, no phone, no internet. The Abbottabad Commission later called it a great humiliation, blaming intelligence failure. US officials skipped informing Pakistan before the raid for fear of leaks. The pattern fueled suspicions of selective blindness. That episode never fully faded from international memory.
The United States and Pakistan have been friends for a very long time. We have a relationship that is rooted in mutual respect and mutual interests. So there is always a lot to talk about. But this was an especially important visit because we have reached a turning point. Osama bin Laden is dead, but Al-Qaeda and its syndicate of terror remain a serious threat. Today we discussed in even greater detail cooperation to disrupt, dismantle, and defeat Al-Qaeda and to drive them from Pakistan and the region. We will do our part, and we look to the government of Pakistan to take decisive steps in the days ahead. Joint action against Al-Qaeda and its affiliates will make Pakistan, America, and the world safer and more secure.
Now the UN monitoring team documents JEM's claimed role in a 2025 mass casualty attack and notes the creation of a new wing intended to support terrorist activities. Pakistan calls the group defunct. The contradiction repeats. Each time, global response cycles through statements of concern. Each time, accountability remains elusive. JEM's historical pattern includes vehicle-borne attacks. Pulwama is an example. The Red Fort blast fits that template, modified through a professional network. The UN designation of Masood Azhar predates this incident. Yet he announced a women-only wing on the 8th of October 2025. The UN report records that development. The wing, not formally listed by the UN, was described as intended to support terrorist activities. Expansion under sanctions, evolution under scrutiny. India has again and again highlighted Pakistan's terror network. Briefings to Security Council members, emphasis on JEM's active role, push for stricter enforcement of sanctions, calls for asset freezes on individuals associated with the network. The document bolsters India's long-standing argument that cross-border terror persists despite formal bans. It is not whether India has raised the issue, it has repeatedly. The question is whether the international system responds beyond documentation.
Thank you, Madam. It is unfortunate that one particular delegation has chosen to misuse and undermine this forum to indulge in propaganda and make baseless allegations against India. The whole world has heard Pakistan's Defense Minister Khwaja Asif admitting and confessing Pakistan's history of supporting, training, and funding terrorist organizations in a recent television interview. This open confession surprises no one and exposes Pakistan as a rogue state fueling global terrorism and destabilizing the region. The world can no longer turn a blind eye. I have nothing further to add. Thank you.
The IMF dimension lingers in the background of global politics. Pakistan has accessed international financial support even as scrutiny over terror financing ebbs and flows. Removal from the FATF grey list facilitated economic breathing space. Yet renewed pressure builds when evidence surfaces of hawala flows and active recruitment drives. Compliance frameworks rely on sustained enforcement. If enforcement weakens, networks adapt. The Delhi blast victims came from modest backgrounds. Their funerals drew crowds. Government aid was promised. Memorials rose near the Red Fort area. Yet grief does not alter geopolitics. Documents do. The UN report stands as a formal record linking JEM to the attack through a member state's intelligence input. It records organizational evolution. It captures conflicting assessments. It leaves a paper trail. India's Operation Sindoor demonstrated willingness to target infrastructure across the line of control and inside Pakistan. Pakistan responded with counter-strikes. A 4-day escalation followed. Ceasefire calls prevented wider war. Yet, the cycle continues because the underlying ecosystem persists. The UN report underscores that persistence. For years, India argued that Pakistan differentiates between domestic threats and anti-India proxies. Pakistan rejects that accusation. The UN document does not adjudicate motive. It records intelligence claims and organizational developments. Yet the implications resonate. A Pakistan-based outfit linked to a mass casualty attack in Delhi. A new wing launched. A claim of responsibility noted. A contrasting claim of defunct status also noted. Diplomacy now confronts documented contradiction. International reactions often focus on condemning attacks wherever they occur. When Pakistan faces internal assaults, global statements express solidarity. When India faces cross-border linked attacks, statements urge restraint. The asymmetry shapes perceptions. The UN report injects formal acknowledgement into that question. It places JEM and the Red Fort blast within the sanctions monitoring framework. The broader question extends beyond one blast. It concerns enforcement of sanctions regimes, asset freezes, travel bans, intelligence cooperation. If a UN-designated terrorist announces a new wing and that wing's model aligns with a subsequent attack, what corrective measures follow? Documentation without consequence risks normalization. Pakistan argues that JEM camps were destroyed and the organization dismantled. The UN report cites a member state asserting the group remains operational and claiming responsibility for attacks. The divergence cannot coexist indefinitely without credibility erosion on one side. Evidence demands reconciliation. India has come out again and again, raising dossiers and data, often dismissed as bilateral dispute rhetoric. Now the multilateral monitoring mechanism reflects similar concerns. The document does not scream, it states, it records, it contrasts, it flags. That precision carries weight. The Red Fort blast happened near a Mughal icon in a crowded market at rush hour. It symbolized vulnerability. It also symbolized persistence of networks that adapt under pressure. The UN report acknowledges that persistence. Pakistan maintains the opposite. The world must decide which narrative aligns with documented activity. This episode fits a larger pattern. Claims of dismantlement followed by evidence of revival. Domestic bans followed by offshore handlers. Online radicalization under sanctions oversight. Women's wing under male leadership. Urban modules composed of professionals. Each layer complicates denial. Accountability in the international system rarely arrives swiftly. It accrues through documentation, diplomacy, and pressure. The UN monitoring team has added a new layer of documentation. The Red Fort blast and JEM now share a line in a formal UN record. That line challenges dormancy claims. The question returns with greater urgency. With the United Nations itself flagging Jaish-e-Mohammed's claimed role in the 2025 Delhi Red Fort attack and highlighting its organizational expansion, will the international community move beyond expressions of concern and finally hold Pakistan accountable, or will this report join the archive of warnings that changed nothing?